born into a Catholic family, and my parents got divorced when I was 5. At that point in time, there was no going to church. There was no spiritual entity in our lives, for lack of a better term. There was a lady across the street that had a little Bible study, and we'd go there once a week, and it was fun and it was interesting. And that ended up planting a lot of seeds into my life. So as I grew up, I had parents that were alcoholics, and it was a very confusing childhood. And I grew into an adult and tried to find my place in mind-altering substances, relationships, and things that the world would embrace. And I was looking for that something. And there came a certain point where I just went, this is not working. All the things of the world are not filling that hole in my soul. I remembered the seeds that got planted in my life, and I just decided one day, I need God to do these things, to change these things, because I don't want to feel this way the rest of my life. That's when it happened, is just I started going back to church, started getting into the Word, started associating with Christian people. From there on out, I became a changed creature, and it wasn't overnight. It took some time, and there were some back steps and some forward steps and back steps and forward steps. But I found that as long as I kept moving forward, that things in my life began to change. I began to have a good relationship with God, and some of the things that I was looking to quench in my own life, they became satiated through that relationship. I no longer found myself seeking pleasure in worldly relationships and in alcohol, drugs, any of that stuff. And it was a big life-changing moment for me to get into that. I think that prior to me rededicating my life to Christ, that I would not have been a good father, but it helped me focus on how does our earthly father interact with us? How much does he love us? I became a much better father, a better husband. I strive to glorify God, and I fail just like anybody else, but that's my goal, is to serve God to the best of my ability, despite all the bruises and scars and the things that the world tells are wrong with me. When I was 13, I wanted to be Ace Frehley from Kiss. That was my big goal, and so I learned to play guitar despite having zero musical ability. I can't read music. I don't understand music theory, but I was determined enough that I wanted to be a guitarist because I thought that would be the coolest thing in the world, that I just kept going, and I was hard-headed, and I made it happen. And it just shows me that throughout my life, God was setting me up because he knew that if I was going to do this, that he was going to use it for his glory. And so now that's what I'm doing. I play a couple times a month here at church, and I'm using the talents he gave me. So recently I had this guitar that I picked up. It was in Japan, and it was advertised on this website as a junk guitar, which essentially means it's beaten and broken and everything like that. And I looked at that and I said, well, it's not that expensive, so I can pick that up. It arrived via air freight, and I opened up the case, and it was just beat up. All the parts that were originally a white or a cream had yellowed, and they were chipped off, and it was scratched, and it was in terrible shape. But it looked so cool because of the condition it was in, that I knew that I had to fix this. And I ended up replacing the guts in it, and I turned it into a wonderful musical instrument. And it became an allegory for my life, because how God can take the broken things of the world that the world might reject, the world might say, that's no good, this has no use for it. And I turned it into something that when it's in my hands, it can create music that glorifies God. And that's the same thing for our lives, that if we put our lives in the right hands, that we can glorify God. And we'll still have the scars and the bruises and the things that the world does to us on the outside, but on the inside, we're renewed. Being in the right hands helps us to glorify God by him using what the world rejects. And the world says, you're no good. The world says, this will never have any influence anywhere. Well, it's just not true. And it's one of my favorite possessions in the world. My name is John Pulaski, and this is my story.